from the blackest corners of your mind, they call, pulling you deep into shadow, twisting your senses, keeping you from sleep. It's time to face your darkest fears. This is Tales to Terrify. Good evening, children of the night, and welcome. I have one piece of noteworthy news to share with you before we dig into our very special episode this evening. If you're as big a fan of indie speculative fiction as we are, Locus Magazine is no doubt already on your radar. If you're not familiar, though, Locus is a website, magazine, archive, and resource for science fiction, fantasy, and horror. They're also the force behind the annual Locus Awards, a top-tier award that recognizes excellent new and diverse voices in speculative fiction. For more than 50 years now, they've been telling the storyteller's stories through author interviews, book reviews, curated reading lists, international industry news, and more. Locus is a fantastic resource for anyone who loves speculative fiction, and they need our help. Locus is holding their regular fundraising drive to keep their doors open, lights on, and future bright. Their campaign this year includes a number of fantastic awards for donors, too. You can learn more about Locus and their fundraising drive by visiting Indiegogo and searching Locus Magazine, or by clicking the link in the show notes. Tonight, we have the long-awaited winners of our annual Flash Fiction contest. As you know, this year our theme was folklore and fairy tale, a topic oh so ripe for the horrific plucking. Out of the outstanding entries we received, we whittled it down to 3 runners-up and 1 winner, with the help of the fabulous ladies at Spirits Podcast, Amanda and Julia. If you're not familiar with their show, on Spirits, 2 tipsy history geeks and childhood BFFs, Amanda and Julia, take a journey around the world to learn what different mythologies, urban legends, and folklore can teach us about today. From a queer and feminist perspective, Amanda and Julia examine stories like how the indigenous Australian rainbow serpent relates to climate change, what the Sami sun goddess teaches us about mental health, and how urban legends from our hometowns symbolize otherness. Grab a drink with Spirits every Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find them at spiritspodcast.com or at Spirits Podcasts on all the socials. Thanks for being part of our contest, Amanda and Julia. Now, in no particular order, let's meet the runners-up of our Folklore and Fairy Tale Flash Fiction contest. Our first runner-up tonight comes to us from Mylo Brehm, a tale they call The Cuckoo.
There was something rotten in my sister's heart, something that threatened to eat her up. It made her hungry in a way I could not understand. No one in my family could. I watched her take our little brother in hand and break his paper-thin neck. I watched him fall lifeless to the floor. She went after our baby sister next. I saw her reach out, mouth open to cry for help, as she turned to stone in our attic. Another broken light. She saved our eldest brother for last, He was the only one who put up a struggle. With him, she showed her teeth and gave him a fight he would never remember. Our parents found out. Our parents found her. They saw the marble-white dust on her hands, saw the blood in her hair. They said she was an evil thing that must be put out, the way unwanted dogs are sometimes drowned. They tried to strangle her, but I hit them over the head with a broom until they fell unconscious. Then I took her hand in mine and we ran. I had always loved my sister, and she promised she would not hurt me as long as I never looked back. So I did not look back. We carved out a home in the forest. When it grew dark and the woods dense, fireflies guided our steps like a million little gleaming lanterns. All we had were the clothes on our backs and the kitchen knife I had stolen before we fled. Our parents came out that night to look for us in the terrible dark. They had gathered a mob armed with guns, lanterns, and baying dogs. How medieval, I thought. How foolish, she said. As if bullets could stop me now. As if anything could stop me now. I believed her, because she had already done impossible things that night, like turn flesh to stone, and walk on water as if it were smooth as glass. What was one more miracle? With each death, she seemed to grow stronger. She seemed to grow less human, too. I wondered at her long nails, 2 sharp teeth, wild hair, and pitch-black eyes, but I dared not doubt her integrity when she made me promises. Words never fell lightly from her lips. She weighed each one. For her, a promise was something sacred. For her, each promise was a bond. When I asked her why she killed them, all she did was put one hand to her chest as she said, "I have grown so hungry, little sister, but I don't know what for." We were faster than the mob, and could easily outrun them. Still, each hour that passed felt like a day. We stole an advantage by hiding in the trees or beneath the surface of a lake. It was not hard for us to hide from them, until we eventually grew so tired and out of breath we had to slow down to look for shelter. That was when one of their mob, a straggler, found us. My sister easily killed him too, but not before he cried out with such an uncanny howl it alerted the others and made them give chase. They were too late to rescue him. They were too late to catch us. But they were not too late to put one bullet through my ribs. I was lucky it missed my heart, but it did not miss my lungs. I could not run, cut through like that. A burning sensation emanated from my wound and radiated out to the tips of my fingers. I felt like I was on fire. I felt cut in half. We took shelter in the heart of a tree. My sister tore the bullet from my ribs and stopped my bleeding. I told her, "We're safe here. We are finally safe. We have found a hiding place where they, with all their guns and hard hearts and wild dogs, cannot reach us." She told me to lay down my head and rest. She said she would protect me. The burning gave way to a bitter cold, like the cold of death. It clung to me like hoarfrost. I asked her to keep me warm because I could not stop shivering. She said I was not like the others. She said I would be strong enough to outlast the winter. She told me I was brave as she wrapped me in her arms. She told me I was safe. I told her, I have never known the seasons to pass so quick. She put one hand around my neck as she held me close, tapped me under her chin like a mother hen and cooed, "You have run enough. There will be no more running now, and nothing to run from." I closed my eyes because I trusted her. I was too weak to hear their steps approaching. She held me close as they ran inside our tree, guns blazing, with their hard hearts and wild dogs. The fire in her eyes kept me warm. I knew that I was already dying. What difference did it make if I died tonight or 100 years from now? She held me as I turned to glass. I felt her tears fall cold against me as I lay there lifeless in her arms. Heard their shouting become one voice as I fell to the floor and shattered into shards. I knew it was my own fault for showing weakness before a thing like her, so full of night, But I could not blame a tiger for its hunger or a wasp for its sting. I could not blame her for taking my life in her hands and letting it fall through her fingers like so many grains of sand, as they all stood there silent, held their breaths, and watched. Fear took hold of them and stopped their hands, a fear that belonged only to her.
That was Mylo Brehm's The Cuckoo, as read by Georgia Cook. Georgia Cook is an illustrator and writer from London. She has experience on both sides of the recording booth, and in addition to Tales to Terrify, has contributed to such podcasts as The Other Stories and The Night's End, as both a narrator and writer. She can be found on Twitter at Georgia Cooked and on her website at georgiacookWriter.com. Thank you, Georgia. Our second runner-up for this evening comes from Asher Cookson. Asher Cookson is a writer from Nova Scotia with a deep love of poetry and short fiction. Asher attended a residency with the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia in 2024, where they completed a collection of eco-Gothic poetry and is currently working on their MFA at the University of King's College. He has a deep love of all things horror and loves to explore the many, many things he's afraid of through his writing. Listen with me, children of the night, to Asher Cookson's The Forest.
Someday you will walk into the woods. You will drop the meaningless papers clutched in your shaking hands, printed sheets falling to the scuffed linoleum floor like scattered petals, ink-smeared fingertips, unnoticed. You will not hear the inquisitive voices as you turn your back and exit through the front door, pristine shoes squeaking. You will walk until your body aches and your feet throb and your back curls. You will walk until the air has left your lungs and the exhaustion envelops you like a blanket, until the fog covers every inch of you and your pristine shoes wear through the soles. And still, you will walk. Trampling over moss and soil, tripping over tree roots, your skin will bloom blue with bruises as you move through unseen paths. Your feet will sink into the mud, your breath will grow labored, and your eyelids will droop. Your heart will pound and ache, but still, you will not rest. You will come to a stream and drink on your hands and knees as if it is the last water you will ever see. You will drink it in, and it will dribble down your skin, droplets deepening the shade of your gray t-shirt. You will drink until your belly swells and the warning in the back of your mind fades to static. It will call to you again, and you will stand, comfort forgotten, as you trudge on. You will walk again until you find yourself collapsing onto the impossibly soft forest floor, sink into pillowy green, and silence the buzz in your mind. The pesky fear that evades you now, as eyelashes flutter, heavy with sleep. You will peer towards the sky, pinhole light peeking through the gaps in the branches. The stars seem to stare back. You will be reminded of the fireflies you used to keep in a jar, watched on your dresser as their lights slowly dimmed. The night and day will bleed together. Sunrise will wrap itself around your hair and coat your skin. The mushrooms will grow beside you, newborn and slowly reaching for the trees. You will hear them whispered words against your ears, feel the sound reverberate inside your bone. They will warn you, dare you, to run, to dream, to scream. But your dry lips cannot move, and your cries fall silent in your throat. As you think of your friends' faces, whose names you can no longer recall, your bones will begin to change. Your ribs will crack and sink, reach out towards the earth below and sink until they are nourishing the soil. You will think of the sunlight caught in your lover's hair, the gleam in your mother's eye, the distant sound of strangers at a park. You will not weep. You will think of where you came from, the long path winding through the wide berth of trees and endless green, through the soft soil and the intricate patterns of moss, through the spider's web and the blackbird's song, to the clearing where you are now, surrounded by twisted bark and unplacable light. Are you lost? It asks in a voice like honey. Days will pass, then weeks, then years, and you will wonder where you went and where you are now. Your skin will wither like petals and fall away. Your heart will beat, but only with the wind. Your tears will fall with the rain. The printer whirs, fluorescent overhead blinding you as you jab your finger into a blue button. You gather the sheets as they emerge, plastic mechanism clacking as the ink coats your fingers. You look without seeing, and at a distance, you start to hear it call you home.
That was Asher Cookson's The Forest, as read by Stephen Gagin. Steve Gagin is a voice actor and narrator from Boston, Massachusetts. Stephen has written 2 books in the military thriller genre that are available on Kindle. He has participated in several other podcasts and can be found on his website, stephengagin.com. Thank you, Stephen. Our final runner-up comes courtesy of Heath Ackley. Heath Ackley is a writer of the strange and the peculiar from North Staffordshire, England. His scripts may have been published in 2000 AD in Commando Comics, but his heart is eternally devoted to the dark and monstrous. He can be found on Tumblr at Tales from the Troubled Brow. Lend me your ears, children of the night, for Heath Ackley's Flute.
The hunter left the silent streets and followed the trail east. She picked out the smaller impressions from the other foot and hoof prints. A brisk spring breeze rushed through the trees. The tiny prints ended abruptly. She climbed down from the dappled mare and examined the pitted surface of the road. The adult footprints of those, like her, who had gone in search of the lost continued on for some distance. The prey may have had a day on her, but their scent remained intact. Like an invisible thread, it stretched from the road to the low bushes to her right. Over the years, she had encountered many tricksters. Wrapped in the skins of others, they traded in lies and false promises. Such charlatans went by countless names: the merchant, songbird, rat catcher. The townspeople of Hamlin had been glamoured, just as their children had by the piper's flute. The broken contract and the rats were just devices of his deception. Yet the motive for the trick eluded her. She had refused to take the Mayor Casper's money. The work meant more than mere coin. Personal experience had taught her a bitter lesson. The lives and innocence of children held little value to whoresons like the piper. As the mare cut through the waves of a cornfield, The pocket watch thrummed inside her green tunic. Dismounting, the hunter held out the gold timepiece. She paced the field until the delicate canopy clicked open. Narrowing her hazel eyes, she detected a slight fluctuation in the fabric of the world. A doorway. The hunter could only speculate as to what lay on the other side. A blood-soaked shrine, a market peddling the meat of innocent souls. She made an incantation of protection. From her fingertips flowed a scripture that covered every inch of her pale skin. Without the protection spell, slipping from one realm to another could scour the flesh from her bones. On her knees, she made a blood vow to break the accursed flute and the neck of the one who possessed it. Pulling the hood over her dark hair, the hunter stepped through the fissure. The wheat field may have basked in the early afternoon sun, but midnight dwelled on the other side of the doorway. She stood on the edge of dense woodland. Huge trees reached for the stars above. The darkness could not hide the 130 pairs of footprints from her. They led her deep into the woods. Things rustled in the uppermost branches. She spotted movement there. The hunter had mistaken eyes for stars. They glittered in the dark. Music, sweet and seductive, waltzed on the still air. She dug her fingernails into her palms, and the pain drew the hunter's senses away from the lilt of the lullaby. The last note faded to a distant echo. Had she still been human, the hunter would not have heard the footsteps behind her. In one fluid motion, she spun and unsheathed her blade. The sword sliced through a bare midriff. The assailant slumped to the undergrowth, steaming innards slopping into the dirt. The dying thing at her feet twitched and squawked. A bird-like head, skull white, sat upon a young man's torso. Hands bristled with talons of yellow bone. In the deep eye sockets, silver moons winked out. They were the same as those that gazed down at her from the treetops. Above, a discordant choir began to chant her name. The hunter's reputation had reached even there. Branches creaked as the creatures descended. Blade in hand, she ran along the trail of footprints. A campfire burned some way ahead of her. She had no need of caution. Blood had been spilled. The hunt neared its end. Red cloak, red cloak, red cloak. Claws scratched bark. Jaws snapped. Spines pricked and feathers shook. A multitude of scents hung in the chill air. Faces, canine, rodent, and feline, hissed as she rushed by. The hybrid creatures focused on her, and not the figure seated before the fire. That could only mean that they were in his service. The camp sat in the middle of a small clearing. The chanting ceased. Anticipating a trap, the hunter slowed her pace. The piper stitched something hidden behind the flames, but his thin fingers held neither needle nor thread. The flickering light danced over his ragged and mottled costume. Bones burned black against the cinders. The flute lay at the piper's side. Once the work had finished, his creation scurried away into the night. Beneath the eye mask, blistered lips parted into an ugly smile. "I am honoured." He gestured for her to sit, but the hunter remained standing. Bitter smoke rose to a starless sky. The fire cracked and spat. "I've heard such things about you, Red Cloak." His tongue snaked over brown gums barbed with razor teeth. "Is it true you ate old man Jack's heart?" Delays and games were all part of a trickster's trade, just as swordplay had become the cornerstone of her own. The hunter ventured a step closer. If her prey went for the flute, she would take off his arm before the instrument touched his lips. "Don't waste your last moments with idle talk." Leather creaked as she tightened her grip on the sword hilt. "Where are the children?" "I gave them shelter." Colours swam in his eyes. "I gave them food. I made them kin." The hunter lifted her sword so that it hovered less than an inch from his face. A single teardrop of blood dripped from its tip. "Where are they?" "Can't you see?" The piper laughed and held his arms out wide. "They are all around you." Red-cloaked turned to face 100 tiny yellow talons, reaching for her eyes.
That was Heath Ackley's Flute, as read by Janey Napier. Janey Napier is a passionate writer from the south of England. Though her growing love for horror may be a recent thing, she is a certified nerd through and through, and loves anything that gets both her mind turning and adrenaline rushing. Thank you, Janey. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for. The winner of our 2025 Folklore and Fairytale Flash Fiction contest. A tiny terror that packs a big punch, delivered to us from Maggie Dominiak. Maggie Dominiak is a freelance writer from Indiana. When she's not writing, she spends her days wandering through the woods or reading. She loves all things horror and fantasy, and particularly likes blending the two genres together. Xiuhtecuhtli's Resurrection is her first published short story, inspired by her grandfather's indigenous roots. You can find her haunting Instagram at mdominiak3, where she gushes about books and nature. Dive with me once more into the darkness, children of the night, for Maggie Dominiak's Xiuhtecuhtli's Resurrection.
The woman, ghoul-like, slithered out from an alley with dark, stringy hair and a gaunt face. She halted in front of Max. "I've been looking for you." Max eyed her warily, gripping the straps of his backpack with apprehension. "I don't know you." Whoever she was, she didn't belong in this world. Even a child could tell when a person wasn't quite human anymore. Perhaps she was a bruja, but why would she be out in broad daylight? The woman crouched down to be eye level with him. "You're his spitting image." Max diverted his gaze and instead stared at the length of her dress. It was black and made from a myriad of fabrics. The patchwork hung loosely from her body, and tattered strips of cloth swayed in the wind like hanged men. Turquoise beads shone around her neck. "I need to go home." "May I give you a gift before you leave?" She smiled. Max had expected rotting teeth, but instead saw pure white bone grinning back at him. I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers. He wanted to bolt, but his feet were anchored in place. You're a very clever creature. She pulled a small gray pouch from the pocket of her dress. It was old, the fabric fraying and smelling of a time long since past. I'll show you a magic trick instead. I'll heal the cut you got at recess. If it works, you'll accept my gift. Max's eyes widened. How'd you know I got a cut at recess? The lady put a dark, slender finger to her lips. Hold out your arm. Max hesitated, but gave in. The cut was still stinging from when he was pushed down by Brent. He held his arm up to the woman. An angry gash slashed across the skin of his forearm. She held his arm steady. She undid the string on the pouch, plucking out a small crimson stone. What's that? Max fidgeted under her grip. Her hand was warm, as if steam coursed through her veins. The stone was a relic, a cursed thing made from fire. Hush. She held the stone just over Max's injury. With her other hand, she snapped her fingers. The stone glowed like hot coal, and a static hum met Max's ears. The gash on Max's elbow had vanished. How'd you do that? The woman dropped the glowing stone into the pouch, then offered the bag to him. Max took it without hesitation. Surely the stone wasn't cursed if it could heal people. Hold a stone over a wound. Snap your fingers. The stone will eat the wound and hold it for safekeeping. Snap your fingers again, and the wound will reappear on someone else, she explained. Why are you giving this to me? Because they're yours, Xiuhtecuhtli. You've just forgotten. Max blinked, and the woman was gone, a cloud of ash blowing in the wind. Back at home, Max fiddled with the stones. He turned them over in his hands, running his fingers over the smooth surface of them. The one the woman used to absorb his cut was still glowing, and felt like a warm, beating heart. Movement caught Max's attention. There was a spider on his bedstand. He smashed his hand down out of instinct, crushing the fat brown spider beneath his palm. When he lifted his hand, gooey viscera stuck to his skin. He flailed his arm in disgust. Max pulled a stone from the pouch and held it as steady as he could over the spider's corpse. He raised his index finger and thumb and snapped, the action so familiar it startled him. The residue of the dead spider winked out of existence. Left in its place was a healthy, whole spider, woven back into reality by the magic of the stone. It skittered away. Max cradled the blazing stone. He fell asleep clutching it against his chest, listening to a faint murmur emanating from within it. He dreamt of fire. At recess, Max sat at the edge of the playground. He had kept the stones close to him, in his backpack first, then in his pocket. They seemed to whisper to him, unveiling lost memories of heat and light. It was soothing to Max, their warmth like a blanket shielding him from the cold. A hand smacked the top of Max's head. It was Brent. Why are you sitting all by yourself? Anger ignited in Max's chest. Dunno. Come play a game with us, Brent smirked. Playing games with Brent and his friends was always a bad idea. I don't wanna. What? Brent's face twisted with fury. I said play a game with us. Now. Max felt the stones heating up in his pocket. Okay, I'll play. He slipped out a stone. Take this first, Brent. The stone burned viciously. It was the one that had absorbed the crushed spider. "What is it?" Brent took the stone, wincing at the heat. "Fire." Max raised his fingers. Snap. Blood sprayed across Max's face in a splatter of red. Brent's friend screamed in a chorus of panic and horror. At Max's feet was a pulpy mass of flesh and bone. Max tilted his head at the boy who had once terrorized him. Blood trickled down his cheek and into the corner of his mouth. His lips stretched into a smile so wide his cheeks almost split open. Red stained his teeth. Max's eyes gleamed turquoise. They were no longer the eyes of a boy, but a god. He bent down and fished out the stone from the heap of bone splinters and meaty gobbets. As he left the playground, a trail of scorched footprints followed behind him, burning everything they touched.
That was Maggie Dominiak's Xiuhtecuhtli's Resurrection, as read by Joel Simler. Joel is a bearded, flannel-wearing actor and audio producer from the Pacific Northwest. He loves to entertain by any means necessary, from life as a theater kid to playing music on stage or in the street, professional ballroom dancing, and even performing on a pogo stick. Luckily, he found his home in audiobook narration, where he records from his personal recording studio, affectionately named the Audio Hovel. Thank you, Joel. Well, children of the night, the hour is late, and we've run out of tales to tell. For now. Tales to Terrify is made possible by the tremendous generosity of our supporters on Patreon and PayPal. Incredible fans like Lestle Baxter, Amanda Carrillo, Amanda Gottfried, and Orion D. Hegre, whose generous support keeps these lights on and flickering ominously. If you're not a supporter, head over to patreon.com/Tales to Terrify. You'll find all kinds of perks, like ad-free episodes, bonus content, and one-of-a-kind collectibles. Every dollar goes back into this show, and we appreciate your support so much. Want another way to support the show that doesn't cost you a cent? Head over to Podchaser, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and drop us a 5-star review. You'll not only put an unnaturally wide smile on our faces, but help new listeners discover our terrifying tales, too. You can show your love of the show out in the world with some Tales to Terrify merch. TalesToTerrify.com/merch will take you to our TeePublic store, where we've got a great collection of creepy custom and curated designs. Tales to Terrify is produced by Seth Williams, Meredith Morgenstern, Andrew Gibson, Crystal Hammond, Spencer Disparty, and myself, Drew Sebastini, with original theme by Nebulous Entertainment. Tales to Terrify is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Join us again next week as we give in to carnal desires with more Tales to Terrify.